Okay, here we go. Let's get started tonight. Now that we've done some of the preliminary work, we are really happy that you're here tonight to join us. We've got Kara Reen here to talk to us about number lines across the curriculum. Kara was a classroom teacher. For 8 years, she's taught pre-K, K, grades 3, grades 4. She also served as a math specialist at the district level for 5 years. And she has now been with us at Brainingcamp as our customer success manager, making sure that our customers, many of them are probably on this webinar tonight, making sure that you have the support and the knowledge that you need in order for you to be successful. So we're super excited. I know that Kara is going to share a lot tonight here about the number lines. And, one of the most important and useful mathematical tools that we have in our toolbox. So I am going to stop and I am going to let Kara take over and let her do her thing. So
thank you, Mark.
All you, Kara.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. Make sure everybody can see it. Everybody can see the screen. Okay. Oops. So kind of like, Mark kind of did a great job introducing me. I was going to say that I'm here. I live here in San Antonio, Texas. So you'll hear me say TEKS every now and then as Common Core, that just they're interchangeable sometimes for me because I sometimes am talking about the same thing. So just if you hear that, but my name is Kara and I'm so excited to be here with you. Like Mark said, I was a teacher previously and then worked as a math coach and a math specialist for a little while and just really thought, I came across Brainingcamp and I thought, man, this place is amazing. They do teachers can use this and it's easy to make math visual. And so that's how I found myself here. Today, we're going to talk about the number line progression and kind of not only the number line and how important it is, but also the ways to teach it. We're going to talk about difference between a number path and a number line. We're going to go over some number line activities and some number path activities that you can do. We're really going to focus just kind of on the progression of it. And so when I say that it's all over the curriculum, it is it's such a powerful tool that we often overlook because it's in every classroom. Every classroom you walk in, there's going to be a number line on the wall. Even in kinder and first grade, because it is so powerful and beneficial, we want to make sure that we're using it correctly. We want to make sure that our students are using it correctly. And with that, comes some knowledge about it and how to teach it. So if you look here, this is just kind of ones I picked. This is not maybe an all-inclusive list of everywhere it's mentioned, but I did go through. And as you can see, from 2nd to 8th grade and just in Common Core, it's everywhere. Number lines are everywhere. It's all over the curriculum. It's talking about whole numbers and fractions and perpendicular lines and ratios and all the way up to irrational numbers. And so it's really important for us to, because it's everywhere, that we can really understand and get to know how to use it and best to teach with it, right? So there are many ways to develop a rich sense of numbers with multiple different math models. And the number line is a super powerful one. We have found that the number line is really versatile. And we kind of compare it to like a Rec and Rec or base 10 blocks, where those are set representations, right? Those are more procedures. I do have to regroup when I use base 10 blocks when I'm showing subtraction. But the number line allows you to kind of get in and allow the student to teach you what they're thinking. So, and the more we get into that, we can develop their strategies easier when we can see what they're thinking. So this right here is the number line progression. Sorry, I lost my spot. This is the number line progression from Teaching Developmentally with who's written by John Vanderwall. And it kind of shows you here, it starts with a number path, and then it goes with a number path and a number line kind of sitting on top of it. And then it goes to the number line and then an open number line. We want to make sure that we progress our students through this meaning so that they don't just skip right to a pretty abstract tool in as a number line. And so that's kind of why they say don't do it till second grade, because it is a little bit more abstract. So when I talk about the number path, ooh, look at that arrow, look, got all funny looking. But when you look at the number path, it's a counting model. It's counting individual objects. It's pre-K to first. They're going to have to travel that entire space. They're going to slide across the box. The numbers are equally spaced. And then we're going to transition them in when they're ready to the number line. And this is a length model. So we want to be sure that we are teaching the length model correctly, counting length units. This is for second early grade and up. It does include 0, so that's something that you're going to want to point out and purposefully teach. Numbers increase from left to right. They're equally spaced, and the infinite goes on and on forever in both directions, which is why those arrows on either side is so important. So now that we're here, let's kind of jump in and look at some ways that we can use number lines. And fortunately, we have this really cool program. It's called Brainingcamp that can help us show us number paths and number lines and use them in a really powerful way. We're going to go to Brainingcamp. So if you haven't already, spend some time getting logged in and redeeming your code and making sure that you get to kind of see and explore it. If you have not used Brainingcamp before, I might go a little bit quickly over some things, but feel free to go back into our resources and go to webinars and kind of take an intro one. And so that way you can kind of get a good idea of how to use it. There's also great tutorial videos as well. So when I look into Brainingcamp, I can see 17 different manipulatives. I also notice that there's one whole application just dedicated to number lines. We know how important number lines are, and so we added them to every manipulative, which you can find in the instructional tool bin as well. We are working on adding a number path, but in the meantime, you can create these number paths on your own. So let's just kind of come in here. Let's go into color tiles. So initially, we want to start with the number paths and the counting model. And like I said, we are kind of in the process of thinking about that and creating one. But if I add 2 5 frames here and I put them together, this is a quick way to create a number path. And I'm also putting here my text box. So you have different bins over here. I did that quickly, so I'm going to go back. This is your manipulative bin. This is your text and shape feature bin. And then this is your instructional tools bin. So when you come back to the instructional tools, I just pulled out 2 5 frames. And then my text feature I grabbed. And when I drop it on the screen, I do want you to notice that our settings have now come to the bottom here. So when I change the one, I'm able to make it bigger. I can bold it. I can change the color if I'd like to. Here, I just kind of want to drop it in. And so this, we are talking about counting. We don't start with 0 because the students are going to point to the number 1 and count it 1. They even will slide their finger to represent that this one whole box is 1 and 2. Another way you can create a very quick number path is just by using, I like to use whatever tool I'm in. So like if I want to use this color tile because I want it to match, I want them to be able to work around it. So I'm going to bring out my shape. And what you'll notice again is this pops up down here, whatever's selected. And I'm going to, just bring that in a little bit. And then I'm going to move my color tile because now I want to fill this in to be red. And again, I'm just going to copy this and bring this down here. And so now I can very quickly create a number path. And like I said, we are in the process of creating one. 1, 2, 3, this would be 4. And then this one, so when we create this way, I like to have the benchmark numbers highlighted. So you can see this would be 1 through 5. And then this would be, I made the fill white. I mean, the line white. I meant to make it black. There we go. All right. So then you have and you can continue to create this. And so, like I said, just really quickly, I'm creating this number path. And I just kind of was showing you how quickly it can be done. So this is what I mean, like I can put the color tile on top of it, and then I can still see the quantity underneath if I need to. Or I can say, I want to send this to the back because I don't want to see it, and this will come on top. So I'm layering there as well. So it's just a counting tool, right? It's allowing the students to use what they know about the way they count to create this. In your instructional tools bin, we also have the number line. And I want to point it out here because this is going to be super helpful for you when we're talking about number paths. In this instructionals tool bin, the number line is going to be in every manipulative. So if you're working in base 10 blocks, you're working in part whole mats, in color tiles, wherever you are, you can pull out that manipulative, you can pull out the number line, you can toggle the labels on and off. So I can add my own numbers, I can change my start value. When I drag this way, it's going to increase. When I drag this way, it's going to decrease. So those of you that are working with negative numbers, you're really wanting to show those things, you can just drag this around and grab and drag just like that. So if I want to create a share code, and Mark mentioned share codes, and I'm about to show you a whole bunch of share codes, but I did want to explain what a share code is. A share code is going to be a task that you create or something that you make, and then you're going to click on share, and it's going to make that an 8-digit code for you, kind of like you're saving it as a Word document or something. And you have to keep track of that 8-digit code. We don't keep it internally, but it's going to be available for you for as long as you have a Brainingcamp license. So you click on share here at the top of the corner, and a box will pop up. You'll have 4 options: share code, live, copy image, and download image. When I click on share code, it's going to ask me if I want to create a link or a code. And just to show you how very easy this is, I'm going to copy this, come back to opened up another tab with Brainingcamp in it. There's the share code box here. I'm going to paste it and go. And what you'll notice is it's the exact same thing that I just did with the moment that I, press share. And it's their copy. Each person's getting their own copy. They're not going to change your share code. You're not working on it together as a Google document or anything like that. This is their own copy, and the students can now play with it or whatever they would like to do. So how do I introduce number paths? And here's where I'm going to start doing some share codes. Why is it important to consider when teaching them? Like, teachers, if you're struggling with number sense in the upper grade levels too, is it okay to go back to use a number path? Sure, because sometimes when we're counting and you notice your student is saying, like, they're pointing to the wrong tick mark, or they're not starting at 0 and they're starting at 1. Those are a good sign that you need to go back, kind of re-examine a number path and remediate for them. It doesn't have to be just a pre-K to kindergarten, first grade tool, even though it is geared towards them. I want you to know, please use it for remediation purposes as well. Just like anything else, again, we want to take time. We want to introduce it. We don't want to just put 10 numbers on their desk and say, here you go. So this is kind of a progression and getting familiar. Oops. Sorry about that. So it's invalid because I did not put the 8 characters. It has to have 8 characters. So you press go. And so this is kind of getting familiar with the number path. We just want students to look at this. Oh, perfect. We want students to look at this. We want them to understand what we're talking through and how we're talking through this. If you click here, down here at the bottom, there's a zoom in, a zoom out, and a zoom to fit button, which is super helpful. It's my most favorite button in the world because I'll put all kinds of things on the screen and then I want to see everything that I did. You just press the zoom to fit button. But in this case, I just really want to look at this example first, and I don't want my students to see the other example. We're going to talk about this one first. So I'm going to use my zoom in button and kind of get just a little bit more focused on this one. So this is a number path. It's a counting model. Numbers are represented by rectangles, and each rectangle can be counted. A number line is a length model, like a ruler. So each number is represented by its length from 0. So there's a hop or a jump. And this connection of quantity to linear space is key for understanding number lines. And so how we build that is we start to use the number path first so that they're able to kind of make that connection later on. So when we're here, how many? I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. The student can move this and see the number 4 if they're struggling, or they're basically using it and saying, okay, this whole area is my 1, this whole area is my 2. What is just the number just before 8? So this kind of extends it a little bit further and says, what's this number right before this? And so we know that that's 7. And so you want to talk about what comes before, what comes after, and get them really familiar. Notice I'm only using 1 through 10 right now. There's going to become a point when you pass 10 and you want to use 1 through 20, and that's okay too. I think you should still use the number path at that point, especially in K and first grades, so that they can easily use their fingers to either count on or count forward. Where is 6 located? So I'm going to take this little color tile and I'm going to place it on the 6. I want them to be able to see where it is. And then it says circle 7. Now, a lot of our students are going to do, so here's my pen tool. I want to point this out too, because I think the colors are great. We're able to adjust the thickness of our line now. So I'm going to use my blue. And if I did this, this is what we want to not do, right? This is saying that the number 7 is a number 7. And what we really want students to do is visualize the 7. 7 is not just the numeral 7. It's actually including all of this. So I want to circle 7, because when we say 7, and I say, I want everyone to close your eyes and visualize 7, we don't want it to be the number. We want it to be something of 7. In this case, 7 blocks of our number path. So this is something that I could do with them, and then I can say, okay, now it's your turn. They can scroll over and then they can do it. So this is something that, like I said, all I did was copy paste and then move it over, and then they're able to share it back with you. They can create their own share code, or what I find to be more beneficial is they just copy the image and then paste it in some kind of Google document or Google slide or something that you have prepared for them. And so again, this is just kind of the beginning of a number path. We want to make sure that we're introducing it correctly and that they're getting the exposure that they need beforehand. Because of counting errors like counting tick marks, it's less likely to happen on a number path because each box represents a number. So be sure to make sure that when you're doing that, you can see the students getting familiar with that. When you are in the hundreds chart, so if I come here and go back to Brainingcamp's homepage, this is our number our hundreds chart. And just really quickly, I wanted to show you the ability to shrink this. And now I have a number path ready to go right here. I can talk about placement of numbers when I drag it on there, that it's kind of highlighted. The share code I wanted to share with you, and the reason I wanted to share with you, or share it with you, excuse me, is because it does have this NCTM part where it says using a 100 chart as an extended number path is an authentic connection to measurement and helps frame the children's linear view of larger numbers. Children are developing a sense of location that involves direction and measurement. So we're beginning that direction, we're beginning that measurement, that length model by doing this. When I scroll over here, if when I select this, you can see the little blue lines popping up. I can make a copy. So I can tell my students something that they've seen before and then say, now I'm going to shrink this and show you the number path. I could even make another copy and go to 20 if I'm going to 20s, and then talk about how even though I went over, they're next to each other. And because of the number line tool, I can drag this out as well and show the matching. So once I'm ready and my kids are familiar with number lines and familiar with number paths, I'm able to make that connection for them. So now I have this scrolling over here back and forth. I'm going to press zoom to fit, and now I can see the whole thing on my screen. That was just an example of I put too much. I would like to see everything on there. So that's kind of what we call my zoom to fit button. Like I said, it's my favorite button that we have. So if I want my students to connect the number path to another tool that shows, does Brainingcamp have a bottom? So actually it does. If I come here, I'm just going to go back into it like it's brand new, just so you can see the whole board. Down here at the bottom are our settings. Be sure to check those out on every manipulative because there's so many different settings for each one. We really try to think about. So if you want to go bottom up, all you click is bottom. If you would like decimals instead, you click decimals. If you want it to start at the 0, you start at the 0. So there's so many different numbers, ways that these can be used. And we love the fact that because it's not a physical manipulative, we can change it really quick. We can adjust it to what we need it to. And then, however I see it. This also can drag down to 120 just for the younger teachers or even older teachers. The 100 chart can drag down to 120, and I can also change the range. So that's just really something that I love about the 100 chart. Just be sure to play with the manipulatives because there's so much to be done with all of them. So kind of going back, we connected it to a 100 chart. What is another tool that we could connect it to? Well, base 10 blocks is a great one, but so are Rec and Recs. And Rec and Recs are some of my favorite tool. I'm going to show you this share code now. So show me 5 on the Rec and Rec, show me 5 on the number path. Now show me 8 more. So this is going to talk about adding a little bit, right? This is putting 2 numbers together. And so if I say, show me 5, I'm going to drag 5 over. When you're using the Rec and Rec, all the beads always start on the right-hand side and then they move over. To show, I can also turn my group labels on if the students are still struggling with counting what those are recognizing those benchmark numbers of 5 and 10. Having the group labels on down here could be very helpful. Again, I'm going to pull out because I now want to show it on the Rec and Rec, but I'm going to use my shape tool and I'm going to highlight it a really cool, fun, different color. Let's do green. I'm not going to fill it in, but I'm going to make this a little bit thicker. Now it says show me 5 on the number path. I don't want to just circle the 5. I'm going to show this whole thing encapsulated because that's 5, not just the number, not just the numeral, but the whole thing. So, and then it says, Now show me 8 more on the Rec and Rec. So this is going to be a little bit for more advanced students that have already subitized a bunch, have compared numbers, have gone through. This is actually a 20 bead Rec and Rec, so you want to be sure that you're, already there past the 10 mark. But really quickly, I can see 5 and 3 more go over very quickly. And then I can make a copy of my shape tool, maybe. Not letting me grab it because I think I locked it. So I'm going to make another one just really quickly. I'm going to bump it up a little bit and make the line green. And now I want to show 8 more. Oh my goodness. Let me send this to the back. There we go. Oops, now I'm moving stuff all over the place. But if I grab this, now I can show 5 and then 3 more very quickly. And so you're able to kind of see that tool and make those connections. The more visuals we can give, the better, right? The more that we can say, look at these connections, look at this in a 10 frame, the more images that we can put in their head so that they can use it and fix it, the better. So as in pre-K first, as the students transition and they're using number path, we don't include 0. But when we're transitioning into 2nd grade and 3rd grade and 4th grade, then and purposely using the number line, we really want to make sure they understand that concept of zero and linear measurement. So let's look at linking cubes. When I go into linking cubes, I'm going to put this one in because the number path is already created for me and I don't want to have to spend time creating one and so that y'all know how I made it. But linking cubes are a great way for them to see those 10 connections. Here, I can see 1, 2, 3. Again, I can turn my group labels on and see that there's 10 there, or I can turn that off. When I drag this down, so now I'm making this connection. I want to connect the number path and the number line, but I want to do it purposefully. I don't want to just throw, oh, you've used a number path now, we're ready. So we want to move this down and you can still see the numbers underneath. But now I'm going to take my pen and I want the students to do this. You can use it with the number line as well, but I do want my students to do this. I'm going to make this a little bit thicker and I'm going to draw a number line right underneath. Oops. I'm going to draw a number line right underneath my connecting cubes and my number path. And then I'm going to have my students draw their tick marks themselves. And we're going to say, what would we label this? We're going to have that discussion. What would we label this? It's before the 1, and I know I have to slide all the way over to get to 1. So what can we label this? And that's where that number of discussion of 0 comes in. We haven't crossed the barrier of 1. We have not slid across 1. And then they're going to create their tick marks. And that way they can make this connection between counting and the jumps and the measurement part of this. Oops, I swear you would think my mouse handwriting would be much better than it is right now, but it's still a little rusty. Now, I am going to, perfect. I love that Maria said this because she says, I constantly remind my 5th graders to talk about this when working with coordinate grids. Start with the number path. And then shift into back to the number line, because that's absolutely right. That number line is part of our coordinate grid as well. And so I'm going to throw this in the text box. So I copied something and all I'm going to do is press paste because I want to show you that I can do that as well. But 0 is the far left tick mark and 1 is the far right tick mark after the first linking cube. You might want to just really talk about what this looks like. You might even show some hops early on. The great thing about this is I can now show this same, so if I want to show it with a number line too. So my kids have drawn it. They've had the ability to kind of see it and think about it. And now we're going to put 10 more. So see, I turned my groups on because I miscounted. I want to be sure I had there. And then again, I'm pulling my number line out and I'm making that connection. See how it snaps together? They can see that connection. They can see where those two point together. So let's go look at the number line application. We've got a good idea about number paths and how to connect them. Let's go back to the number line application. I'm going to kind of walk you through it a little bit, talk about it a little bit before I jump into some examples of it, just so you all know all the great things that it does. But it is different than the number line tool. And if you'll remember, the number line tool extends this way, and then you can move it up or down. The number line application, if I extend it, all it's going to do is stretch it out. So how you change the range for these, I was talking to one of my best friends, she's a 7th grade math teacher, and she said, I was talking to her about this number line presentation, and she said, I have the number -20 to 20 on my desk every day. And so here is an example of clicking this, and then I can change the range. I can drag another one from here or make a copy. Either one will present another number line. So if I want to show something in a different way, I can do that as well. I can also change the range from 0 to 10. And then I can copy this, move this down, just to kind of give you an idea of the different ways to use it. And I can toggle the labels off. So if you're wanting to put your own numbers in, or maybe you have an idea that you would like to do, you're able to turn those labels off as well. And then we have our amazing jumps. I'm going to just delete these. You have your amazing jumps and hops. So if you look, this is obviously, it's going to like not fit exactly until you put it onto the number line. And then by clicking here I can change this to 5 and it'll hop, or I can grab the end of the arrow and drag it as well. So that's just an idea of kind of the basics on how to, can I zoom in on 0 to 1? So on the number line, it doesn't go below, the range doesn't go below 10, but if I want to make it as small as I can, and then I can use my zoom in feature. Now, if you're talking about fractions, and you would like to show fractions, you can go to your decimal or fraction workspace. So the number line also has different workspaces. And then this number line, I can change if I want to show 2 all the way to 2. I want to change my denominators or how many parts I'm dividing this into. This would be in my fraction or my decimal workspaces. So be sure, like if you're wanting to go more in the fractions, you would want to go to the fraction workspace and change the denominators to how you would like it. Perfect question. Thank you so much for asking that. But just like the number path, we want to be sure that when we introduce the number line, that we do it in a way that is purposeful and slowly, right? We don't want to just say, okay, here, add numbers right away. We want to, I'm going to clear all and drag out one. Oops, I'm going to actually go back to my integers and clear all and drag out. And so here again, I'm kind of just, I could show numbers 1 through 10. I might add a text feature here. We want to ask those basic questions. How far did you travel from 0? Or how far did the teacher travel? This is where those hop comes in. So I might, in this case, I want to show hops of 1. And then I can just copy. And I want to talk about that distance, that traveling, those hops and those parts. So I want to, this is just the beginning. We're introducing the number line. I'm going to change my pen tool here and I'm going to put the number 4. So Susan, good question. We chose not to do the 4/4 because we know that they're equivalent, but you can show that in a different way or put 4/4. But good question. And so this would be my first kind of step. Then I'm going to take this number line and I'm going to say, I'm turning the labels off, and I might label just two parts of it. I might label the 0, and I might label the 10. And now I want my students to place the numbers. That's kind of the next. We've seen it, you've seen it. Place these numbers on the number line. So again, we're showing this slow progression of how to use the number path, how to use the number line, and not just expecting them right away to be able to do that, having these conversations. And then I can copy this again and move it down. And this time I want to turn my labels on, and I might show something like my first addition problem, right? 4, plus 3 equals. And so that's kind of just the beginning of it. And this number line connection here, or I'm sorry, introduction to number lines is going to give you a lot more. I just wanted to show you how I created it. So be sure to check out the share codes on that handout, because it's going to give you lots of different ideas. Maybe that's already better and looks all nice, and they're ready to go and ready to use for your classroom. So there's so many concepts to cover in a number line. There are like we looked at them, right? The second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. We want to look at, but I also wanted to show you, like, I can create anchor charts with this. So if I'm talking about the number line skills that we're going to be using it, this is the Cuisinart rods. And again, all I did was go to the fraction workspace, and I changed my whole, because I want to talk, in this case, I want to talk about fractions greater than 1, and I want to show it with Cuisinart rods instead of fraction tiles, because I want them to show these unit lines. So I can turn these labels on, I can turn my units on and off so the students can see the divisions if they still need that. But these are all the number line skills that you can do: counting, magnitude, operations, comparing, measurement, fractions, decimal, time, geometry, graphing inequalities, and rational numbers. There's so many different number line skills that you'll be using with the number line, and the ability to change the whole in the fraction workspace. So I wanted to point that out. So hopefully you were able to see, when you go into Cuisinart rods, how I did that was I went to the fraction workspace, and then down here, I changed my whole. And so you can change it to fourths. So Mona, all I did was use for, like, this is an anchor, what I called an anchor chart. Maybe I want to put something up there. You just add shapes and text, create it, and then you can make a copy of that. So we've been talking a little bit about fractions, but let's talk about fractions a little bit more. I did kind of show you on the number line application already, but if you go to fractions, I can change the denominator that I'm working with and the range that I'm working with. So the first initial thing I might want to talk about is just unit fractions. And so when I drag this hop out, what you'll notice is it says 1/4. And then I can copy this and say 1/4. And then I can talk to my kids about, what does it mean when it's 4/4? Why is 1 and 4/4 the same thing? So those are ready to go. 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. There's 4 of them. You're talking about the parts. And again, here's this 0 to 1. You can also go to mixed. So if I come here and let's say I want to go, well, I'm going to go back to fourths. So here I can change the fraction if I would like it to say mixed, or a fraction greater than 1. You can talk about the difference between 1 and 1/4 and 5/4. So that's kind of that back and forth that you can change really quickly to say, what does it look like and why does it look like that? Again, these conversations are super important. When I come into Brainingcamp, I'm going to go to fraction tiles. Again, to show this here, when I pull out my number line, it is in a fractional form. When I come back here, if I want to talk about adding fractions with unlike denominators, I can say 1/3. I'm going to make this a little bigger. I can say 1/3 plus 1/2. And what do our kids do most of the time? They say, oh, well, I'm going to just add the top and add the bottom. And so this is a really good visual of why this doesn't work, because I can say, okay, I want you to check that. So they can grab this and I can say, okay, put 2/5 out there. Do you think that if I put those together, that that's 2/5? And that's just that really good visual that they're able to see. Here, if I want to show, now I want to show why it's not 2/5. I'm going to erase this. And this and this. And I want to talk about common denominators for a second. I can put this number line right up against it. I can see that it's not one whole yet, but if I click here and I change my range, you're able to it can help you find a common denominator. I want to see where that line ends up. So right here, I'm at 4/5. Nope. Oh, look, 5/6 is a common denominator between 3 and 2. And so I can say that the answer 1/3 plus 1/2 is 5/6. And then I can even show it with my fraction tiles. Again, these are all ways students see things a little bit more clearly, right? A little bit, and instead of just saying, oh, well, you're going to multiply the top and the bottom and find the common denominator, which is great, but we want to give them some reasons why all of that works. Something else is time. We are constantly using time, but how does that involve a number line? So I'm going to say, let's just say we had a question like this. And the reason I'm just kind of going a little bit faster and copying and pasting. So it started at 6:15 and ended at 9:40. How long was the show? If you come back to the front, you see this number line here at the bottom. This is so amazing to me. We know how important number lines are, that we even put it in our clock and in our time. So again, just like with anything else, you click it and you can change the range that you're working with. I know that I'm starting at 6 o'clock, somewhere around there. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of bump it to 6. And I know I'm ending at 9:40. So I'm going to kind of put that in that perspective, because it says 6:15 and 9:40. But again, I'm having to scroll up and down, so I'm going to press zoom to fit so I can see it all on my screen. And then here very quickly, I can say 6:15 to 7:15, 7:15 to 8:15, 8:15 to 9:15. And then I start talking and wondering, okay, I want to get to the 30. I know 15 and 30, those are common that I use. That's only 15 more minutes. So you see, if I dragged it here, it shows 15 minutes on the clock. If I bring it to the number line, it'll show 15 minutes on the number line. But I'm still not there. I'm at 30. I need 10 more to get to 40. So I know now it took me 3 hours and 25 minutes. So again, just that number line is super important, and you can use it in many different places. Back to the 100 board. When you're in 100 board, again, go through these workspaces, click on these things at the bottom. Rounding is a huge one for me and number lines, and teaching them using a number line. So just to kind of show you, I always draw a number line here to say, this is a number line. It's got a little dip in it to give you kind of hints. But when you drag this here, 34 is going to round to 30, and you just see the animation happening to give them that clue. But this is the 100 board share code that I created, so that I put the number lines under it. I talked about finding the halfway mark. They can just label the halfway mark here however they want to. That's not very pretty. You would probably want to do it better. And then it says round 26 to the nearest 10. So if my students need this help, they can do this, but then I can also just mark it and say, okay, that's closer to 30. So again, rounding number lines is another great option for it. And then for you middle school people, in upper grades, we don't want to forget about you, and we're running out of time, but integers on a number line. And so if you go into 2 color counters, you can see this workspace changes to integer chips. You can also change the colors that you're working with. So the one I'm about to pull up, I changed the colors. And this is working with number lines and integers on a number line. So I have 3, and I want to take away -2. Here I don't have that, but if I put 2, whoops, well, got too close. I can put 2 0 pairs, and that doesn't change anything. And then I can break these apart. And now I can take away -2, and I can see that 3 minus a -2. And if I want to label this on my chart here, I'm going to start at 3. And then I'm going to go subtract -2, but really that's going the opposite direction, so you're getting to 5. Subtracting is adding the opposite way on the number line. And so again, some signs are going to change to a positive, different signs change to a negative. Same signs change to the positive, and different signs change to a negative. So again, this is really important to show, not only with the integer chips, but also with the number line. Again, we can use this, we can link this to everything that they know. And it's just a really cool, well, I think it's a very cool way to constantly be bringing in something that they're familiar with. The very last thing I want to show you, because we are running out of time, is open number lines. And again, this is kind of that last progression though. So you don't want to just jump in right to an open number line. It's an empty number line where students can show their thinking without the constraints of all these predetermined tick marks. Numbers are placed only when they're needed. And the number line scale is determined by whatever 2 tick marks that you place on there to begin with. It really helps with being able to see the children's thinking. The students can, again, goes beyond a set model. Like if I was showing 32 minus 48, I'm going to have to regroup in base 10 blocks. Here, I don't have to. I can think through strategies. I can get them to mentally think and kind of build that understanding. Really, it says 2 essential strategies that children must understand before they use the open number line is to be able to count by tens. So on and off the decade, that means 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, or 56, 76, 86. So that's on and off that decade means that. So they really need to be able to count by tens, and then jumping across tens or bridging tens, which really means what I understand it as a making tens. So 8 plus 5, I can give 2. 8 plus 2 would give me 10, and then 3 more would give me 13. So again, the open number line, it only is determined. There's no animations. It's going to be exactly what I want it to be. So if a child does this and say this is 100, and then they do this, and let's just say they say this is 150, and they leave it like this, is this a conversation I can have with them? Absolutely. Why is your 150 not making that? How did you make the number line open? It's in your workspace. Very good question, Deanna. So if you missed where I got the open number line, if you go into the Brainingcamp application of number lines, and then you switch the workspace to open, that's where you're going to find the open number line. So this is that, again, a conversation I can have here. When you go to the open number line, I'm going to just kind of show you a little bit. Again, we're going to explain what it is a little bit. Again, this could be a, oops, sorry, I keep cutting off that last letter. This could be something that you put in your classroom like as an anchor chart. And all I would do is just copy image. I right-clicked, copy image, throw it on a Word document, print it out, and put it up somewhere. So that's kind of what I mean by anchor chart. Empty number line, they're added. 0 is not often placed because here I might be starting with 24 or whatever number that I'm working with. So they can record their mental math computation strategies using this. And I'm going to show here one more example of using it like a number chart, or I mean a number talk. And then I'm going to stop talking after that. But this is an example of using 49 plus 32. I just copied 3 number lines and asked Olivia. She told me she started at 49, and then she jumped 3 10s and 2 1s. Carlos said he used a friendly number, so he knew 49 was close to 50. So he jumped to 50 and then 3 10s and then just added 1 more. So this is just an example. I hope you kind of were able to see the progression of how we can use the number lines, the number paths, then going into the number line, and then the open number line. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Mark kind of finish up.